Erin McCullough, aka the Joy Slinger, is a coach, author, and guide whose life purpose is to help business people find joy, meaning, and purpose. Her signature, impenetrable joy, helps business leaders create the life they've always wanted. Please welcome our first speaker, Erin Mack.
At the end, I'll tell you about a strategy for reducing any low-level emotional experiences, starting your day off on a positive note, and ultimately rewiring your brain for change. My intention is to help you see where you give your power away and how you can harness it instead. So let me start with my story. There are 3 defining moments that changed the course of my life. The first was an anxiety disorder that had me holed up for nearly a year. The second was an accident that I caused where I nearly killed someone. And the third was a divorce that leveled me. I won't go into much detail about these, just enough so that you can see the impact. And if you want to read the full story, then you can go on my website or it'll be in my upcoming book. So my anxiety disorder came out of talk therapy. I know that flies in the face of what we think we know about the psyche, but it is true. And the reason it happened was because of how the subconscious mind functions. See, the subconscious mind cannot distinguish whether an event is happening or if you're recalling or retelling the event. In traditional talk therapy, you'll go back through your childhood and explain all the things that didn't feel good, if you can remember them. And then in retelling the story, you've activated your subconscious mind to create a reenactment of the events, most of which are unpleasant, as though they're happening in real time. As I continue to tell the story of all the things that happened, my anxiety got worse and worse until a few months in, I began to hole myself up in my home and I was afraid to go out. It wasn't overnight that this happened. It started with a panic attack here and there. And then I started to have panic attacks daily and then several times a day. And in an attempt to control the panic attacks, I stayed home so as not to be triggered. But what I know now is that trying to control the outside is not possible, and the real work is internal. The second thing that woke me up was an accident in which I nearly killed someone. About 10 years into owning my old business, I received a phone call from a client one morning complaining. And when clients called to complain, I would take it personally and do everything I could to appease them because I thought that if I didn't, then I wouldn't have a business. So you can imagine that's a lot of pressure. When this client called to complain, I flew into a panic. I raced over to a friend's house to drop my daughter off, and I raced into her driveway and backed in and sideswiped my truck on her husband's truck. I was so flustered. I dropped my child off, looked at the truck, saw there was no damage, and raced back out of the driveway to see my client. When I arrived a few hours later to pick my daughter up, my friend informed me that when I'd hit her husband's truck, he'd had it up on jacks and thought that it was going to land on him and kill him. My heart sunk. My being so obsessed with my business and panicking over my clients nearly caused somebody serious harm, if not more. I couldn't justify my behavior, so it prompted me to start working on myself. And so I delved into seminars and books on self-development. And I did start to see that there was a better way. The third defining moment was when I was going through a divorce. Now, part of it was the divorce itself. If you've ever been through one, it is difficult. But the other part was that I had spent all these years and money, tens of thousands of dollars on personal development. And in my time of need, I really didn't feel like I had strategies that I needed to get out of my dark place. So I picked up another book that had been recommended to me for years called A Course in Miracles. And the miracle hit me month 2, when all of a sudden, every time I opened up the book, all I saw in big, bold letters was the word joy. It said things like the path is joy, the answer is joy, 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 joy. And I thought, great, I have the answer, but how do I experience that? Well, as it happens, when you're desperate and asking, things begin to line up. I went to another seminar. I learned a strategy. I went and trained under that person. and to teach his seminar. And in putting on my first seminar, I realized my purpose was to teach people how to let go of stress, anxiety, worry, overwhelm, so that they could create joy for themselves. And so I'm going to teach you that strategy today at the end. So, all of that to say that we're constantly evolving if we're paying attention, and to let you know, I've been through some stuff, likely like you have, and I found a way that works for me that I now teach others to use so that they can find their joy. So, now what is impenetrable joy and why does it matter? I define impenetrable joy as the ability to no longer allow events, circumstances, or people dictate whether you feel good or bad. That's taking your power back. Now, I want to start with a few examples because I say this definition often to others and clients, and what they say back tells me they may not have grasped the concept. Your first clue that you are not experiencing impenetrable joy is when you are complaining. So, here are a few examples of what I mean. I don't understand why my brother won't make time for me and my children. He says he wants to spend time with us, but when we invite him, he turns us down. This is really upsetting to me. Family's everything to me. I asked him if there was something I did, and he says everything's fine. Or, we have 3 children, and I don't like to take them out to eat because they don't listen. They won't sit in their seats or stop making so much noise or get off their devices. They're embarrassing me. For that matter, they don't listen at home either. I warn them over and over again until they make me so angry, I end up raising my voice out of frustration, and then I feel like a bad parent and upset with myself. Or this last one. My business partners refuse to communicate with me at crucial moments when I need a quick response. I don't think they understand how critical it is for me to get back to funding partners quickly. Their lack of communication stresses me out, and they don't seem to care or understand the urgency. Also, every time I tell them that we need to hire someone, they give me a hard time about it. And I think it's because they think every dollar spent is one less dollar for them. They make me so angry and stress me out. I want you to think about what the scenario is for you that has recently happened that is difficult to let go of, in which you had a negative emotional reaction like disappointment, anger, anxiety, stress, overwhelm, or worry. Is it traffic, coworkers, employees, bosses, spouses, children, family? All of these scenarios are likely similar to something that has happened in your life. Maybe it's not your brother who doesn't want to spend time with you. Maybe it's a friend or your spouse. Maybe you don't have 3 children, but you have at least one and they don't listen or do what you want, and that you find that frustrating. Maybe you don't have business partners, but you have employees or colleagues that you have a difficult time communicating with. And I know for me in my previous business, when employees would do something that was not protocol and a client complained about it, I would go a little crazy in my head for a while. They all sound reasonably challenging to navigate, right? And I'm not saying don't get upset, at least initially. I'm just wanting to point out that if you allow other people's behavior or outcomes of events or circumstances to dictate how you feel, then you have given your power away. There is only one thing that we can control in this life, and that is how we respond to it. And I'm talking about emotionally, how you feel. We cannot control other people, what they do, don't say, although we try. For example, honey, when you don't pay attention to me or cut me off when I'm speaking, it makes me feel like you don't love me. This is an attempt to get the other person to do something to make you feel better. You are really the only one who can make yourself feel better. The other thing we cannot control are outcomes. We behave as though we can all the time. An example from my life, in 2003, my husband and I began to buy single family homes and fix them up and rent them out long term because we were told that real estate never loses its value. It's a safe bet. And then 2008 happened, and all the money we put into those homes, as well as some of the homes themselves, were lost. We try to control everything, pre-plan it out so that we do not have a negative outcome. But just because we make believe and have all bought into it does not mean that it is real. I believe underlying all of this is a need to be safe and secure. Now, this next statement is where I may lose you as friends, but here goes. There is no security. It is not possible to be secure, at least not in the ways that you think. There's not a level of income, a stash of cash, a retirement fund, etc., that will make you feel secure. For that matter, there is not a situation in this world in which will make you feel safe and secure. If you are seeking for these things externally through other people, money, or things. This is a personal development seminar. And the biggest part of personal development is to understand who you are and learn how to change the parts that don't feel good. If we continue to seek outside of us to make us feel good, we have become beholden to others and circumstances. I want to teach you how to seek inside yourself for all the juicy things so that you can dictate the experience that you are having versus allowing others and circumstances to do that for you. Isn't this great news? You get to take the wheel. So let me start with a foundation to what I believe creates freedom. Two things. One, your dominant thoughts create your reality. And two, taking personal responsibility for said reality. Let's start with the first thing. Your dominant thoughts create your reality. I'm talking about the dominant thoughts that you have around right, wrong, good, or bad. These thoughts create your personal reality, your emotional experiences. I read the other day that something around 80% of our thoughts are habitual, meaning we have the same ones all the time. It is our thoughts that set up our emotions. So if you are thinking the same thoughts and the outcome is stress, for example, if you change your thoughts, you can change your reality. Now, the second part, taking personal responsibility, can be challenging. You mean I'm responsible for that accident, divorce, not getting that job? Well, maybe. In the least, you are a component because you're there. More importantly, you're responsible for your reaction to those experiences. This is not from a blame, shame, or fault place. It is from an empowering place. If you can begin to understand this one crucial thing, emotions are generated from the inside, not the outside. It is not that person or circumstance that is making you feel a certain way. It is you that feels that way in reaction to that person or circumstance. This is not semantics. Your emotional experiences live inside of you and are latent until someone or something wakes them up, or in today's terms, triggers them. Once you can truly grasp that you are responsible for your emotions, then you can actually heal them. Up until then, you are counting on external people or things to change in order for you to feel better. And some people may change at least for a bit to please you, but the goal is to be unfazed by the external world and focused on your internal world, because that is where you can make change. Otherwise, you're beholden to everyone and everything to show up how you need in order for you to feel good. And if they don't, then you don't feel good. Wouldn't you rather have the reins on whether you feel good or not? Wouldn't you at least like the choice? Now you know you can. So, what to do about this? Well, the thing to notice is when you are in reaction or having a negative emotional experience like stress, anxiety, worry, overwhelm, anything that doesn't feel good. We use our emotions to point us to the areas that are ripe for healing and growth. When we are reacting, that means there is a hurt part of ourselves that's showing us it is available for healing. After we notice that we're in reaction, then we begin to question ourselves by saying things like, I wonder why that person, what they said or did, is bringing anger inside of me. Or it's curious that I'm choosing stress as a reaction to this traffic, my employee making a mistake, or my client being upset. Or I wonder why I choose overwhelm when I have a lot to do. I wonder if it is possible to choose a different way of handling a full plate. This is the responsibility stance. Approaching these emotions with wonder and curiosity gives us the opportunity to take a step back from ourselves. This is important because while we may think we are our thoughts or our emotions, the fact is that we are not. How I know this is because you can have a thought or an emotion and tell me what it is. Who is the one who is naming the thoughts and emotions? That is actually who you are. By taking a step back and separating yourself from your thoughts and emotions, you can begin to see them for what they are, an act, a show that you've put on many times over. From this place of recognition, you now have choice. You can react or respond. Without this, you have no awareness and thus cannot change. Now, this is a practice, it's not a one and done situation. Now that you have this information, you will likely begin to notice after the fact that you've been in reaction to something. You may have a tendency to give yourself a hard time about it. Don't. You have been practicing your current way of being for a very long time, and it will take some time, not forever, to make the change. You will begin to notice your reactions more and more until one day you will be in the middle of a reaction and realize it and stop yourself. Eventually, you'll begin to have such a great understanding for what sets you up to be triggered that you will just stop yourself from going down that rabbit hole. Now, you may be thinking that sounds like a lot of work. It's not a lot of work. Don't go there. That is just a distraction from making change. Your subconscious mind wants you to believe that everything is hard so that you don't make changes, because change to the subconscious mind goes away from its main goal to survive, to have everything stay at status quo. It is simply just different, not hard, just different. If you get one thing from our time together, I hope it is that the best way to empower yourself is to take personal responsibility for your emotional experiences. If you can begin to go within in wonder and curiosity, you will find freedom. You will take back the reins in your life and learn to harness impenetrable joy. Now, I promised you a strategy to combating any low level experience and for starting your day out in a super positive way. One of the practices that I teach is what I call a day in the life visualization. This is a visualization of a day in which everything you've ever wanted takes place. This is all the things, the cars, the house, the vacations, the people, the significant others, children, grandchildren, friends, family, and the relationships you would like to have with these people, all end results. Nowhere in this visualization are you to go to the hows of it, how you got the money for all of this. An example, my business triples, I win the lottery. All end results. The biggest part of this day in the life is creating an emotional experience. If it is the day in the life, then you would be pretty dang elated at every moment. You must feel that elation. So why do I make it a day in the life visualization? I do that because we want what we want because of the way we think it is going to make us feel, which is really good. The visualization will prove that it is not about the things. You can create the feelings of having all the things now without the things, because it is not the things that make you happy. It is the thoughts of the things. So why not create the thoughts that elevate the emotional experience now? And you can get the things too later if you want. Do this visualization every morning before you do anything else. And most importantly, before your mind gets started on trying to start from what happened yesterday. Forge a new path every morning, one that feels amazing. Get into it, raise your hands in the air, say woohoo, get goosebumps, and have tears of joy streaming down your face. Now that's how you start a day. What I've said today is just the first step to the healing process that I teach. I would love to connect with you and help you get a solid narrative for your day in the life visualization so you can begin immediately. There will be a link available to my website. Click on the link and book a discovery call now, and we can discuss this further. You deserve to live a life predominantly in joy, and if that is not your experience, let's go on that journey together. Thank you for your time and attention. It has been my honor to be here and co-create this moment together.